All right, you already know what it is. Fourth Quarter Boyz Sports. I am your illustrious host, Professor Lake. Like, comment, share, subscribe. You already know what's popping, man. Training camp is about to kick off, man. Rookies have reported, as you already know from my first little upload. I read an article about Roquan Smith not reporting to rookie report date for training camp due to not having signed a contract with the Bears. We'll talk about that just a little bit. I just had to read that report to you guys. But today, we're going to talk about training camp, my thoughts on the offense, and then, we'll do another video on the defense later. But today, we're going to do the offense, and we're just going to discuss some things that I'm looking forward to as far as offensive improvement. We'll get a little more specific about that. But as you always know, what I do right about now, it is Fourth Quarter Boyz Sports. I'm your illustrious host, Professor Lake. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Bear down. It's about to pop, man. The season is about to pop, man. It's going on. So with that in mind, man, a lot of teams are going to training camp. We're about to get things started. The rookies have reported for the Chicago Bears, but the only person that hasn't reported as far as the rookies go is Roquan Smith. But today we're talking about the offense. Here's my thoughts on the offense as far as where we need to go. We're not talking about wins quite yet, but where I want to see improvement with the Chicago Bears is offensively. As fans, we've been deprived for years of wanting a prolific offense. We've wanted a Tom Brady. We've wanted a Brett Favre, a Aaron Rodgers, a Drew Brees, somebody who consistently can put up passing yardage numbers, a quarterback that we can rely on that could put us in the playoffs. We just haven't had that on a consistent basis. Here are my thoughts when it comes to the Chicago Bears and their offense. This is kind of generic, but I think the offense needs to be at least 2 times better than how they performed last season. 2 times better. Now, you can go ahead and do the numbers. You could double everybody's numbers if you want to, but I guarantee you if you do that, we would have won a couple more games, and we might have found ourselves knocking on the door to the playoffs if we could accomplish that. So overall, if the offense can do 2 times better than what they did last season, I think as Bears fans, whether we make it to the playoffs or not, we're going to be able to understand that we were close. We may have some room for improvement, but we didn't even give ourselves a chance last season offensively. Here's where I think that we need to make our improvements to see those improvements, to see the growth in the offense. Number one, just the fact that we have Matt Nagy, we have offensive-minded coordinators, offensive-minded head coach. I really believe that we're able to scheme a lot better for the season. The fact that our offense performed so poorly last season, I can't even remember a time where, our receivers did that poorly. We just never really were able to see, a prolific passing game, deep throws, threatening the defense with patterns downfield. We just didn't see that. Last year, our offense was so predictable. A novice Bear fan could look at the formation and know what the Bears were getting ready to do. But moving right along, the next area of improvement I want to see with the Bears is less mental errors by the offensive line. So many times that we were 3rd and short, and offensive linemen may have had a false start. They might not have been lined up on the line. Petty holding penalties. I just want to see the offensive line, show some maturity, show some veteran leadership, and get rid of these penalties. So many of the Bears' penalties have held us back from kicking field goals, from being able to obtain a first down, to continue a drive before the play even starts. That's the next area of improvement offensively that I see the Bears need to make. They need to be more disciplined up front. They need to stop having false start penalties called on them, petty holding penalties. This has to stop. It has to stop. Again, a lot of the Bears' offensive problems had a lot to do with Dowell Logans. But with that in mind, his receivers didn't help him out as well. At the beginning of the season, we lost Cameron Meredith, we lost Kevin White. Two receivers that we thought would be able to, push our competitiveness, and they were injured. We didn't have them at all during the 2017 season. This year, I look at what we have as an upgrade. We got Allen Robinson, we got Taylor Gabriel, we got Trey Burton. We also drafted a young man out of Memphis, Anthony Miller. So I definitely think that we have an upgrade at our position. I also want to mention Javon Wims. I think that he's going to be a dark horse in the wide receiving core. I'm really hoping that the Bears don't leave him on the practice squad and forget about him. I think that he has talent. I think that if you work with him, he will develop. And he may be better than some of the options that we have going into the first game with the 53-man roster, if you take your time with it. Wide receiver separation last season was at a bare minimum. We had some of the worst wide receiver stacks in Bears history. Unbelievable. And again, one of my other points I want to make, moving on from the wide receiver performance, another area of improvement is play predictability. I just think Dowell Logans is just not an offensive coordinator that is really innovative. I think that he was there to replace Adam Gase, and I think that they tried to allow him to use Adam Gase's system since they still had Jay Cutler at the time. Offensively, you really have to be able to make the offense your own and be able to get that information over to the quarterback and disseminate the information to other players on the team in an understandable way. And then it actually has to work. And Dowell Logans had a very bad season with the Bears. And, I can't help but think that maybe some of it had to do with the personnel. A lot of it had to do with the personnel. But a lot of the poor offensive performance had to do with play calling. It also had to do with game preparation. There's really not a lot positive I can say about Dowell Logans. Now, players to watch for, during training camp, and this is a very touchy subject. It's a very touchy subject because I know that we love the players that perform for the Bears, and it hurts when you see somebody new come through and supplant them. So these are some battles that I'm looking at. All off season, all I see is a lot of analysts and commentators and former players say, Tariq Cohen is so dynamic. He's such an electrifying player. But Jordan Howard has been a workhorse for the Bears for 2 seasons in a row. 1,000-yard rusher, and he has a chance to continue to break records for the Chicago Bears. And I think a lot of people are overlooking Jordan Howard. So during training camp, I'm really trying to find out who is going to get the majority of the snaps. Is Jordan Howard going to improve in being a dump-off guy in the passing game? Can he be involved in the passing game? Tariq Cohen, a very quick, a very agile player. He's really nice in space. He's a perfect player to dump the ball off to. But when you're scheming for other defenses, you don't want to tip the defense off by taking Jordan Howard out and putting Tariq in. Hopefully, Matt Nagy uses a little bit of I formation, a little pro set to mix things up in short yardage situations. But I definitely think This is going to be something that'll surprise some people, just to see who's going to battle it out for that number one spot at running back. Tariq Cohen is competing. I looked at his college tape. If you think he can't be an every down back, you go check out his college tape. So I think that while being in the NFL, he's definitely going to develop strength. He's definitely going to develop callousness to the brutality of the game. You check with me if you think that Tariq Cohen can't be an every down back because of his size. Let me know. We'll talk about it in the dialogue. Another battle that you might want to take a look at is Kevin White and Javon Wims. With Kevin White not being able to perform for the Bears in the last couple seasons, that leaves room for a young guy like Javon Wims to step up, prove that he's a more athletic receiver, that he's worth being coached. And maybe during the season, you see Javon Wims break his way into the 53-man roster during the season because of his ability to compete and stay healthy. What's going on at the tight end position? We got Shaheem, Sims, Trey Burton, and Daniel Brown. I see all of these guys making the 53-man roster, but I'm really wondering, how much each one of these guys are going to be used in the offense. I'm really looking for Shaheem to have a breakout season. I really hope that he's working on his route running skills and learns a better idea of what defenses are trying to do with him and has a better concept of football. Now, he played basketball in college. Over the years, you really just wonder how much football IQ he has, and I'm hoping that he's watched a lot of tape. He's looked at a lot of Tony Gonzalez. He's looked at a lot of Gronkowski, guys of this nature, to maybe pattern his game after. Sims, a veteran, decent blocker. But again, Matt Nagy doesn't believe in him as a downfield threat. So, that definitely makes him a liability in certain situations if you want to stretch the field in certain formations. Trey Burton is going to be a starter. We're just going to see what he can do. He's not a guy that has a lot of snaps. Doesn't have a lot of experience, in my opinion, but he definitely has a skill set to work within Matt Nagy's system, and I see him flourishing because he knows the system. So I'm just looking for other guys to step up as they get more acquainted with Matt Nagy's offense. Daniel Brown has been a guy that's hung around the Bears for a while for the fact that he has route running skills, and he's a pretty decent tight end when it comes to receiving. I'm not that confident in his blocking as much as some of the other guys the Bears have. Definitely a guy I know he's going to make the 53-man roster, and he can be used in the passing game, and that's one of his strengths. So I'm really trying to find out who is going to rise to the top in this tight end room outside of Trey Burton. Offensive line, we signed Earl Watford from the Arizona Cardinals, formerly a guard from the Arizona Cardinals. I think that he's more of a security blanket. I think we're going to find out how much Kyle Long is going to be motivated to compete for that right guard position. We drafted James Daniels in the second round, and definitely when you draft somebody that high, you're going to want him to step on the field and be productive. They're looking to see James Daniels beat out one of these veterans. Earl Watford, I have a feeling he's going to make the team. I'm wondering how long Kyle Long can hold on to that right guard spot with Earl Watford waiting in the wing. So we'll see what happens with that. That's definitely a position to watch. Lastly, I want to talk about Mitchell Trubisky's development as a quarterback in Matt Nagy's system. I know this is going to be a process, but hopefully by the Hall of Fame game, he has a good understanding of what Nagy expects from him. I'm hoping he has a really good handle on the playbook, the play calling. You know, a lot of expectations are put on his shoulder. It's really on him to digest the playbook so he could disseminate the information to some of the other players. It just made this offense into his own. So I'm looking for the Bears to have a lot of improvement. They made some steps in getting better personnel at the wide receiver group. They definitely had an upgrade in the offensive coordinating department by moving on from Dowell Logans and getting Mark Helfrich. Also combining that with a head coach that's offensive minded as well with Matt Nagy. You know, I really see this offense flourishing. Some of the games that we lost last season, again, I think we'll be able to pull out with this sort of offense. I'm really hoping that Jordan Howard can fit into Matt Nagy's system. You know, I'm wondering what they're going to do in the backfield because they got two very talented running backs, and you're going to want to use them in different situations, but you're not going to want to tip the defense off too much. With that in mind, we talked a little bit about the offense, my expectations for the 2018 training camp. You know, leave me your opinion, leave me your comment, let me know what you think. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Let's get the dialogue popping. We're talking Bears training camp. Look for the defensive video real soon. You know it's popping. Fourth Quarter Boyz Sports. I'm your illustrious host, Professor Lake, and I'm out.